If you were to ask me my favourite style of comedy, I would have to say farce. Synonymous with slamming doors and people hiding in cupboards to avoid their lover's husband.
I have been closely shrouded in this bush!
The Cambridge Dictionary defines farce as a humorous play or film where the characters become involved in unlikely situations.
Pierre Chandebise, 3 Boulevard Malesherbes.
Unfortunately, the good name of farce has been sullied by a lot of very bad ones. Which is a shame because when it's done well, it constructs a house of cards in the first act, which is made precarious in the second act and collapses in the third.
Well, I've always had this tremendous weakness for farce, or what I call French farce, because it does have a purity of structure. And this particular scene in the middle of Wanda was my attempt to do it on screen. The problem is that when you're watching it in a theatre, you see everything. You know, you can watch all the things that are happening, and in the movies, the camera is pre-selected.
It is both hard to write and hard to stage, because any move in the story that doesn't feel like it's coming from the character stands out, and that house of cards falls too early. Farce is inextricably linked with its country of origin, France.
Monsieur Barnier, j'ai le grand honneur de vous demander la main de mademoiselle votre fille. Ah! Oui, monsieur, c'est elle dont il s'agit. Non, si. Oh!
This film is called Oscar and stars Louis de Funès, a very funny French comedian who seems to be largely unknown outside of French-speaking territories.
Mais si ça me regarde! Non mais attendez, avec quelle valise est-elle partie? Oui, mais moi je ne m'en fous pas, figurez-vous! Oui. Oh, mais dites donc, vous avez un autre! Crétin! Triple andouille! Boutonneux!
See, even without subtitles, I find that pretty funny. But this film was based on the stage play of the same name. Actually, it's named after a very minor character who only has a few moments of screen time at the end. Louis de Funès played Bertrand Barnier several times on stage and reprises the role for the film, in which he finds out his employee is embezzling money and announces he is marrying Barnier's daughter, whose identity he has confused with another, leading to a whirlwind of non-stop confusion until the truth finally comes out and the house of cards falls.
Je vous demande une chose. Vous vous foutez de moi là?
Monsieur, je ne me permettrai pas.
It does feel very stage-bound due to its source material's theatre roots, but it's such a funny film that I find it easy to forgive. Now, in America, their comedies tend to be more gag-based, the machine gun wit of Groucho Marx setting up what would become the template for American comedy.
Your Excellency, here's the Treasury Department's report. I hope you find it clear. Clear? Why, a 4-year-old child can understand this report. Run out and find me a 4-year-old child. I can't make head or tail out of it.
Now, I love these films too. I'm not throwing shade, particularly not at the Marx Brothers of all people. But this does set up the American school of comedy, where characters quip their way through serious situations.
Marriages don't break up on account of infidelity. It's just a symptom that something else is wrong.
Oh, really? Well, that symptom is fucking my wife.
Whereas the rule of farce is characters taking ridiculous situations seriously. But for some reason in 1991, Hollywood thought it would be a good time to remake Oscar.
Mascalzone. Oh, but what have I done? Gangster. You rob or you steal, you shoot at people.
Because 1960s French family politics cannot be mapped directly onto 1990s Americans, there was a bold decision to set it in the 1940s. Bertrand Barnier is now the gangster Angelo Snaps Provolone.
Get the hell off my atrium, and Big Anthony, we're alive to hear this.
On the grave of my father, I never wanted to upset you.
This role was originally offered to Al Pacino, who did accept but later bailed so he could be in Warren Beatty's Dick Tracy movie.
15,000 claims. It's a deal.
So that role went to Sylvester Stallone, who was known and is still known as an action hero. And with the exception of Rhinestone, this was his first foray into comedy.
Jeff Katzenberg suggested Sylvester Stallone, and I went, I don't think so. And then I met him, and you know, he's a very smart guy, and he can be very charming, and he is funny in real life. I mean, this is an amazing cast. And I was very pleased with the movie, but Sly is the centerpiece, and we had this moment at the preview where somebody wrote, I have the card. Why didn't he take off his shirt and kill anybody?
At this time, Stallone had typecast himself as the tough guy, as he wrote a lot of the films in which he starred. There were often laughs in these films, but you never would have called them comedies. So for a lot of his fans this was a bit of a mood whiplash. But he has gone on to do several amusing films. I particularly like Demolition Man.
I'm happy that you're happy, but the place where you're supposed to have the toilet paper, you got this little shelf with 3 seashells on it.
He doesn't know how to use the 3 seashells.
If your mind can get over the hurdle of Stallone being the lead in this film, then there's a lot to enjoy. It moves at a real pace, the costumes and sets are top quality, and the supporting cast are hilarious.
We're in production, and next day I say to Stallone, "Hey Sly, guess who's gonna play your father?" "Who?" "Kirk Douglas." "Oh shit!" I go, "Oh shit, I'm delighted Kirk Douglas is gonna play your dad." He went, "Oh, I know why he's doing it." "Why?" He says, "So he can hit me." And I said, "Sylvester, Kirk Douglas is doing this so he can hit you?" And Sly goes, "Yeah." And he told me the story, which I later learned was absolutely correct, which is First Blood, which was a movie made in Canada starring Sylvester Stallone, where he played a character called Rambo. And the character who in the movie was played by Richard Crenna was Kirk Douglas. And Kirk Douglas showed up in Canada. They'd shot like 3 or 4 days. When Kirk asked to speak to the director, he says, "Listen, I've been thinking about it, and the ending of the movie doesn't work. I can't let Rambo go. I have to kill him." And the director sort of goes, "Well, Kirk, that's not going to happen." "No, seriously, I think my character has to kill him. It makes no sense." So the director just said, "Kirk, Sly is the star of the movie." "Oh, I know that, but he'll understand. I mean, I just think he..." So the director says, "Kirk, it's not, the studio. Nobody wants that." So he goes to Stallone, the director, and he says, "Oh, Sylvester," and Stallone says, "Go fuck you and him," and and all that. So Kirk made a big thing, and he said, if I don't triumph at the end of this movie, then I quit." So comes the day that we're shooting. They all come in, and Kirk is in bed, and this is the first time Stallone has seen Kirk since then. So we do the scene. I put a sound effect in there. That's him hitting him.
This was Marissa Tomei's first feature film, and when director Jonathan Lynn visited set, having worked with John Landis before on the movie Clue, he found the star of his next film, My Cousin Vinny, for which Tomei would win the Academy Award.
Thank you so much.
Alas, she didn't win any such awards for Oscar. In fact, no one did. It was a massive flop at the time of release.
Doomed. We're doomed. And we were, because anyone who would like the movie wouldn't like to go see Sylvester Stallone movies, and Sylvester Stallone fans went, "What the fuck is this?"
This film has been reassessed in the years since its release and has amassed something of a cult following. It actually reminds me of the Woody Allen film Bullets Over Broadway. I'm sure the period setting and the presence of Chaz Palminteri as a hood do something to encourage that. But they would work very well in a double bill together. I love Farce. I love the running in and out of rooms, I love the constantly raising stakes, and I love to see the House of Cards collapse. The very mechanics of the story is the joy. But I am aware that this is not a style of comedy most American audiences have been brought up on, and that's why this film only has a niche, or as the Americans would say, niche appeal. If you enjoy my videos, please leave a comment, hit the like button, and tell your film-loving friends. Sometimes making content is a lonely old business, and it's nice to know that there's someone out there. If you are so inclined, you can buy me a coffee via this site. No one ever does, I'm not sure why I set it up, but it's there. Anyway, I'm Scott Kingsnorth, and I'm making a movie.